Hello and welcome to this Price a Job tutorial. In this video, we'll be taking a look at Price a Job's project management tools, starting with company, staff, and customer details. To access the project management settings, click on the Company tab here in the top navigation toolbar. In the left-hand pane, you'll see a variety of project management tools, starting with Company Setup, Customers, and Staff. Let's start with Company Setup. There are a variety of organization tools available. However, it's most important to set up your company details in advance, as this information will be copied to your various invoices and quotations that you create in Price a Job. It's worth taking some time to input these details into Price a Job because they'll all be stored on the cloud on Price a Job servers, and you'll be able to take this information everywhere you go, on your mobile device, in your office, on site, or on the road. So to start off with, be sure to fill in your company name, address, and contact info. Next, you can input your payment information, including your company number, tax number, and financial year end. Here you can input the invoice number for your first invoice, and further invoices will be automatically numbered sequentially. Same with your payment numbers. And last job number. And here you can specify your job number prefix. Here you can input your payment details, including your bank account name, sort code, and account number. And with this checkbox, you can specify whether you wish to show your mail signature in outgoing emails. Below this, you have your default profit margins. These are automatically set to 20%. However, you can use these sliders to increase or decrease your margins for materials, labor, plant and tool, and other costs. If you prefer to simply input a numeral, you can input that here manually. These profit margins are just a default. However, you'll have the opportunity to adjust these on a per project basis as you make your estimates. So we'll leave these set at 20% markup for now. Next, we can input our staff details, and we can do that by clicking Staff here in the left-hand sidebar. To add new staff, click the Add New button here in the top right. And here we can input our new staff member's name, and save. And this opens a staff details page with the individual's contact information and a variety of tabs that will allow us to store other details. To start, let's upload an image of this staff member. We'll click on the image icon here and select Upload, and then choose a file from our system. And now we have a photo of our staff member here within their details. Next, we'll input their job title and various contact information. In addition to these details, we can also expand the Show button by clicking the twirl down arrow here. And then we can set this employee's employment status, whether full-time or part-time, and input their date of birth. By clicking on this, it opens a calendar from which we can select the year, and then double-click on the month to select the month, and then choose the day from the calendar. We can also specify their gender, marital status, and the start date of their employment. We can also use these arrows to scroll through the calendar to choose a specific date. If we would like to add any extra fields, we can click the plus icon here, and this gives us the option of inputting various types of fields. Either text, a select box, a checkbox, or date pickers. Let's input a text box, and we'll call the title Emergency Contact, and save. And this adds a new field here where we can input this employee's emergency contact info. Let's take a look at some of the other types of fields that we can input, such as the select box. Here we can set a title for our select box, and we might call this gender pronouns. And then we could add a variety of options here. So let's add 3. We'll title the first one he, him, the second she, her, and the third they, them. And then we can select the option that we'll be using as a default, and save. And this adds a select box for the staff information with a drop-down menu from which we can choose the various options that we assigned. Let's take a look at another custom field that we can add. This time we'll take a look at checkbox. And here we'll put a title. We'll call this Available Weekends, and save. And then here we can select or deselect depending on the staff member's availability. And the final custom field that we can add is this one here, is date picker. So let's give this a title. We'll call this one Start Date, and save. And this adds a date field here that we can select, and this opens the calendar where we can select the month and the year and the date from the calendar to assign their start date. However, we don't really need to have a field called start date because we have this duplicated here up above, date of start. So since we don't need this field, we can just use the options here by clicking the three dots on the right, and we can either edit this field or delete it. Since we don't need it, let's just delete that. And confirm OK. Now, if we'll be adding these same fields for every new staff member that we add, currently we would have to add each of these fields manually. However, PriceAJob offers an easy way to duplicate these for every new staff member. So all we'll do is we'll go to the menu here by clicking the three dots and select Edit. And now we'll activate Global Settings and save. So now if we take a look at one of our other staff members, let's take a look at this one. We can see that the field that we just set global settings for, emergency contact, has now carried over to this other staff profile as well. So let's go back to our other staff member, and let's add gender pronouns and available weekends also to our global settings. So for gender pronouns, we'll edit this option and set it for global and save. And available weekends, we'll edit that one, change it to global settings, and save. And now when we look at any of our other staff members, we have all three of these optional fields added to their staff details as well. The optional fields that we've added to our staff members page are easily identifiable by the three dots indicating the options menu here on the side. So let's continue with our first staff member before we move on. At the bottom of the personal details page, we have a section where we can enter any notes that we would like to have regarding this staff member. So perhaps it's a recommendation by whom he was referred to us. Next, we can go to the Payments tab. And here we can input this employee's payroll details, including payroll reference number, UTR number, NI number, and below we can input the payment details, including bank name, account number, and sort code. Next is a tab for timesheets. And the timesheets may be arranged either by week, which is a range of 7 days, by date, which is a specific date that we can choose from the drop-down menu to open the calendar, or by a custom report, to choose a report from last week, this week, last month, this fiscal year, or use custom dates. To input timesheet hours by week, we would select by week, and then add. And then here we would select the project that the employee worked on. So we'll scroll down and find the job that Rob Smith worked on. In this case, he was working at Sparrow Way. And here we can input the hours manually. So we can just input 8 hours per day by tabbing across and inputting the hours if we know that that was the hours that were worked. But if we're not certain of the hours that were worked and we need some help, there is a calculator function here that we can use by clicking on the calculator icon. So here we can set the time in. So we might say 7 o'clock by typing the number 7, and say they worked until 4:15. So we might type 4:15. And there's a variety of ways that we can input this. We can either type 4:15, and that translates as 4:15, or we can just type 4:15, and that translates as 4:15, or we can type 4:15, and that also translates as 4:15, or we can type 4:15, and that also translates as 4:15. There's really no wrong way to get this, so we'll just type in 4:15 to show that he worked until 4:15. And we'll input a 1 hour break, and then we can click in this field here to select the work type. And this is where we'd select whether this was normal hours, overtime, price work, sick, or vacation time. If we need a category that's not represented here, we can add one by clicking Add Work Time. So for now, we'll just click normal hours. And then we can input the worker's rate of pay. In this case, we'll say $20 an hour. But we see here that PriceAJob is having difficulty calculating the time worked. And the reason is that, in fact, we did find a wrong way to input the time here from 4:15, because PriceAJob is using a 24-hour clock. So here we're saying he started work at 7 in the morning and finished at 4 in the morning. So here we should revise this. Rather than 4:15, we should change this to 16:15. And now PriceAJob can calculate the time at 8 hours, 15 minutes worked, and add $165 to his payroll. To ensure he's being paid at the proper rate, you can go to the Rates tab here and input his rate of pay. So for normal hours, he's making $20 an hour. And if we wish, we can add a different rate here. So let's add overtime. We'll select that from the drop down. And this will be time and a half, so we'll say $30. And we can also input his rates of pay for price work, sick leave, and vacation. And if there's a different pay rate that's not represented here, we can create that by clicking Create New. Now when we go back to Timesheet, we'll just input a couple of more hours here, and then we'll open the calculator for Saturday and revise his weekend hours from normal hours to overtime. And PriceJob automatically updates that with his overtime rate of pay, which is $30, and increases his pay for that day to $240. So when we close this window, we can see the system has automatically calculated his pay rate to update his payroll. Now in this case, we've inadvertently input his hours for the wrong year. We accidentally set this for 2022. So let's just go ahead and we'll delete this timesheet by selecting the trash can here on the right side. And confirm. So now we'll be sure we select the proper year and date range. And then we'll go ahead and input the hours as necessary. So we'll add his timesheet for 23 Sparrow Way and input his hours 8, 8, 8, 8:15, 8, 8. And we'll adjust his Saturday hours to overtime pay. And if we'd like to verify any of these hours, we could just click on the calculator for that day. And we can see that this is being billed at normal hours. And on Saturday, we can click on the calculator, and we can see that this is being billed with his overtime rate. So his payroll for this week will be $1,045. If we'd like to see a range of his timesheets, we can use the report function here and select from the drop-down menu last week, this week, last month, or fiscal year. Let's choose fiscal year. And here we can see all of his timesheets represented on a week-by-week basis. If we scroll down far enough, we can see the February timesheets that we just input. Next, let's take a look at the Skills tab. Here we can select the trade drop-down from the menu here, and select all trades for which he is qualified. For example, he may be a qualified finishing and framing carpenter, but also skilled with drywall. If he has any qualifications, we can add his qualifications here. So we'll give this description a title. We'll call this First Aid. And we can set the date here from which he qualified by choosing the date from the calendar, and then specify whether the status is pending, expired, or active. And save. And this adds the employee's qualifications to their employee file. Next, if there are any documents that we'd like to upload, we can click the Documents tab here. And if we have any files to upload, we can upload those files by clicking Upload File here, and then selecting the file from our system. So in this case, we might upload his first aid certification, and this will be added to his staff records. And again, all these records are stored in the cloud, so you can access these on any device anytime you need them. By clicking on this, we can open this to see his first aid training certificate. If we'd like to organize these documents, we can create a new folder here. So for example, we can call this one Certifications. And click OK. And then we can move the certificate to his certifications folder. Currently the certifications folder is just an outline which shows that the folder is empty. Once we drag a document to it and insert that, the folder becomes solid colored, showing that there's contents in it. If we have any other files that we'd like to upload, we can upload those as well. Select Upload File, and maybe we'll upload a scanned copy of his driver's license. And next there's a tab for notes. So here we can add any notes about this employee that we want to keep. So here we can add a note, and under the description we can say, allergic to shellfish. And this note is added to his staff records. And now, rather than having a separate office for your HR department with all these documents filed in separate filing cabinets, you have all this information stored right here in PriceJob that you carry with you on your mobile device and access on-site, in your office, from home, or wherever you are. Next, let's take a look at the customer setup. So we'll select Customers here in the left-hand sidebar. And here, very similar to how we created complete records for all of our staff members, we can now also have complete records for each of our clients. So to add a new customer, we can select Add New Customer and input their name. And this will open a customer profile for them, where we can input their contact information, as well as any additional fields that we'd like to add. There's also a tab here for Statement of Account, and we can filter this by date or by custom range. And if we'd like to add any transactions to this, we can just click Add Transaction. And here we can add an invoice, a payment, a refund, or credit notes. There's also a tab for Documents, where we can upload any relevant files to this client and organize them in a series of folders. And lastly, there's a Notes tab, where we can leave any important notes on this client's file. And we can add as many notes as we need just by clicking Add Note. So for example, we might leave a note here that says, please use side door. And this is stored on the customer record. And similar to our staff members, we can also upload an image of our clients, which makes it easier to recognize the decision makers on site. So here we'll select an image from our phone and upload that to their customer profile. And you can add as many details to this client profile as you wish. If you're adding any custom fields, again, you can use the global function to include these new fields for every new customer. And all this information will be stored in the cloud on the Price-A-Job servers, available to you anywhere where you can access Price-A-Job. And that's how you can input your company, staff, and customer details. Thank you for using Price-A-Job.